Hey everybody and welcome to my course on Entity Framework Core, the Definitive course. And in this video, what we are going to do is to bootstrap our application to connect with the Entity Framework DAL layer. So just a quick recap. So far what we have done is we have tried to understood like what is Entity Framework, why we should use it. And in the previous video, we have started building up our framework. So the framework is a DAL layer that we have started building up, and it will basically provide all the points of abstraction. And again, the way this course is different from a lot others is like we are targeting more towards the enterprise and production grade applications. So without wasting further time, let's dive in. And just a quick word before we move in case you have not subscribed to the channel, please do it now because this course is going to be amazing. We would be covering a lot of aspects. So this is just the starting, but down the line, there are more advanced concepts that would be included, which are probably not that much available or sparsely documented. So without wasting any further time, let's dive in. So what we have on screen is our Visual Studio. Now what I have done is basically I have just copied the solution from the last module and we would be further extending that. And all the source code is available on GitHub. You can download it, reference it as you like. So let's quickly start. Let me just cut a branch for our new development. All right, and let me open the solution as well. All right, so we have the solution ready. Right now, we have two projects as we have seen in the last section, in the last video, where we started building up a framework. Now, let's quickly add a new project, API project, which would be responsible for interacting or actually showing the results or how we are interacting with the DAL layer. So the way to do that is pretty simple. Go to add new project. And I will select the ASP.NET Core web application. I'll call it hrms.api. I'll press next and it will create the project. The template that we have to choose right now is the ASP.NET Core web API. We would be starting with the REST controller, so we don't need any sort of advanced functionality. And anyways, we can do that as required down the line. So let's first create the solution and move forward. All right, we have the project ready and here it is. And I will select this project as a startup application right now because we have a executable project now. So just moving that as startup. Now, one more thing that we quickly need to do is to have a new project that is specifically for the migrations. And the reason for having that as a separate project and not having those in the DAL is because the migrations that we generate, anyways, we are going to see that in the next video. But just a quick intro, like the migrations that we generate, they are database specific. So it basically contains all these SQL overrides, you can say, in very, again, this is a very high level language, but let's say if we are going for SQL or Postgres, so it will try to use those database engine specific values when it generates these snapshots. So we would be looking that in the next video, but anyways, for now, let me just quickly add one more project and that will basically be responsible for holding the migrations. And the preferred way of doing that is to use a migrations.database type. This helps us identify specific database types that we want to have. For instance, if we want to have a Postgres, so we can have a separate project where we can store the Postgres specific bindings over there. So anyways, let's just create the project and move forward. All right, so now we are pretty much done with the projects part, and to continue one more or rather a few more things that we need to do is to prepare our environment. So for this development part, we would be using XAMPP engine, and XAMPP provides a consolidated application which wraps all the Apache, PHP, MySQL, and a few other engines as well. We would be using MySQL and the phpMyAdmin for managing it. So let me just fire up my XAMPP control panel, and if you see, so this is my XAMPP. So these are all the services, Apache, MySQL, FileZilla, Mercury, and Tomcat that we can use. We would be using Apache and MySQL. All right, so this is my XAMPP homepage, and whatever the port, the HTTP port that your Apache is running in, you can just use a phpMyAdmin after that, and it will land you there. Let me know in case you need more details or you want some help around that setting it up. Although it's very simple, but just in case, just let us know in the comment section. So let's just quickly create a new database that will host our application. And the way to do so is to just go into the new and type in the name of the database. Once that is done, let's leave the rest of the defaults as it is and create. So our database is now created. Few more tools that we would be using down the line would be Postman, but at least for this demo, for the sake of this demo, we can continue without that. We will just use the browser itself. Alright, so now let's just jump back to Visual Studio. So now what we need to do, we already have the EF tool packages in our DAL project, which you can see right over here. Now let's quickly add MySQL specific database driver, and Pomelo is the one of the most common ones that is being used. So that is what I will use as well. We will go into the NuGet package manager, and I will just type in Pomelo over here. And it will give you all the database specific for Pomelo. Okay, now it's ready. So we will use the first one which is available. All right, now once that is done, we need to set up some project dependencies. Just go over here and click on add project references, and in this one I will just refer the DAL, and from our main project I will refer the migrations.mysql project. So this is pretty simple. Just go over here, select the project references, select the MySQL migrations. Now once that part is done, basically we need to update our startup file for the new changes. So we need to have our database context being aligned, and that we can do straight from here. So if we just refer this one, and we need to pass in our DB context, which we can do right over here. Okay, it is not popping up, and the reason why it is not popping up over here is because so far we had our DB context as internal. We need to change it to public. And once we do that, it would be available over here. Right. All right. The first thing that we need to pass in is our connection string, and how we are going to pass it. Before we pass it, first we need to define it. Defining it is pretty easy. The ideal way, which we shall see down the line, is to have the connection strings as a part of an environment variable. It's a sort of sensitive data. But for a dev environment, or just for the sake of this video, what we can do is we can just open our app settings, which is right over here, and here we can define our connection strings. All right, so we have our connection string ready, and there are just a few things that we need to take care of. One is the server where we are connecting. Second thing is the database name, then username and the password. Now we don't have any password, so I'll just leave it as blank. So again, this is a dev environment. Please don't do this for any of the environment other than dev. One more attribute rather is like treat tiny as boolean. This is one thing that I generally prefer, and it's again more of a preferred choice. But what it does is like if there's a tiny field that is mapped in my database, it will treat that as a boolean. All right, so once we have this, the next thing that we need to do is to update our startup file, and just have a quick note over here what we are doing. So we have a connection strings, and then we have the HRMS over here. So this is the name of the connection string that we are going to refer. Now let's just quickly generate this connection string, and how we are going to do that. Let's create a variable. All right, so we have the base skeleton ready, and what we are doing over here is first we are finding out or getting the value of the connection string, and there is already an extension method called get connection string on the configuration I configuration. So that we are using over here, and what we are passing in is the name of the connection string. So we are using HRMS, which we can see right over here. So the same name we need to use over here, and this will fetch us the connection string actual value. The next thing that we are going to do is to use the add db context hrms db context. This is our connection, this is our db context name that we pass in as a generic parameter, and within the options builder we use an extension method called use mysql. And again, this states in two parameters. First is the connection string that we have passed over here, and then is the server version. So we are using a helper method over here called server version.autodetect, which basically when we pass in the connection string to it, it will automatically capture the version of the server. So this is pretty useful. You, in case something changes in, let's say you update your infra or whatever happens, you don't need to define the version number over here, and it will automatically capture that. One question I generally hear is why we need to use that at all. So the answer to that question is like there are certain things that works in one version, it might not work in other. So DB engines, these DB drivers, they do take care of some of these aspects. So again, these are specific to MySQL. If we are using Postgres or MS SQL Server, some of these things might change as well. So the third one is the SQL options that we are going to use, and this specific part we have to use because we are keeping our migration assembly as separate. So we are not using the same migration assembly as our DAL layer or our executable layer. And the reason being, let's say if tomorrow we are using a separate project for our web pages, let's say a WebAssembly or Razor engine, something like that, not the REST API, not this project. So we can just refer the migration assembly as it is and it will work fine. So that's why we have kept it separate. And again, it cannot be included in the DAL because we want to keep our DAL layer as clean as possible without database dependence. All right. Then there are two things. One is the enable detailed errors. What it does in case something breaks in, it will enable the detailed error logging. And one more thing that I have used right now is the enable sensitive data logging. So if there are some PII or passwords or that sort of thing, basically which you generally don't want in your log, it will print that. And that is why so far for the scope of this video, this is fine. But as we will move into the production scenarios, which we shall see, this should not be used. So that's pretty much what we are going to do from a startup perspective. We don't need anything here. Yes, so the configuration part is all done. Now, one more thing that we shall see is we can remove the controllers from here. So there's a default controller that is generated. I don't need that. Let's just remove it and let's add a new controller. And for this demo, let's take a very simple case. For this, like what we are doing, we need to check the connectivity with the database, basic set of migrations and everything. So for that part, what we can do is, let's say we seed in a few of the user roles, that would be your admin or manager or a simple user. And we can have a API that will return the list of all the user roles. So, wow. So how can we do that? We just need to go into there, add new controller, and there I'll select empty controller over here, or rather move to API controller. I'll just select an empty API controller and I will name it as user roles controller. All right, so this is done. Let's just create it. So before we actually move into this controller, there are a few more things that we need to do. And that is basically we have configured our database. We have configured the HRMS DB context to be used. But again, there are a few more things that we need to do. Let's do that first and then we will come back to this particular class. And the first thing that we need to do is to have a constructor over here that will accept a parameter of DB context options. And what it does is basically it will pipeline the complete configuration of the database options, including the connection strings and everything. It will put up that and get us ready for it. Let's just quickly do that. All right. This is what we have to do for the constructor. We accept our dbcontest options of type HRMS dbcontest, and basically we just chain the constructor to the base constructor. Let's do one more thing. Let's put in the default seed data that we are going to refer for this demo. And to do that, we just need to use an override for on model creating. So this gives us an interception point where we can define all the model creation options that includes your seeding, your table configurations and everything. We shall be seeing that as we slowly progress in this course. All right, we have the configurations ready, and what we have over here, we have set up a very basic seeding of the data, and we have two roles, a user and a manager, which have the IDs of 1 and 2, and we have just used these two items to seed the table. All right, so now this part is done. Now let's quickly move into our user roles controller that we have created. And the first thing that we need to do is to use a constructor injection and have the db contest injected in. Again, this is just for the purpose of this demo. We will be having the proper use case how to do this in our downstream videos when we will using the repository pattern and others to actually see how this communication works. But for this video, just to test the connectivity, we are going to inject the HRMS DB context. And guys, this is the one reason why I'll request you to subscribe to the channel in case you have already not, because these are like the basic building blocks, how we are going to use our system, our application. So this is fine. Now let's add a controller which will actually return all these user roles. So I just added a quick warning note over here. So we are done from the coding side, and before we actually push in the changes, we actually run this application, and again we will switch to hrms.api. But before we do that, one thing that we need to do is to set up our migrations. So migration is something that we are going to see in the next video in detail, but let's just quickly add those. And how can we do that? I'll just quickly run the commands for now. Probably we will go into more details in the next video. So let me just open my command prompt and move to my MySQL migrations project. And we need to use a command over here, and actually we would need one more package before we actually run this command. Let's just fire it and let me showcase you what errors we get when we run this. Alright, just to quickly break it up, we are using a .NET EF migrations command, and to run this command you need to have the EF tools installed in your system, and that's a separate step. You can Google it. In case you face any problem, just let me know in the comment section. I will try to help you out. So we are using a .NET EF migrations add, and then we pass in the name of the migration. And again, since we are using multiple projects for configuration, I mean the runtime startup configuration and the migration configurations, so we need to pass in the startup project, which we have done over here. All right, so here we have the error. The startup project doesn't reference the Microsoft Entity Framework 2 designs package. So what I will do, I'll just quickly drop it over here, and this package is actually needed in your invocation project. So I'll just go over here, manage NuGet packages, and install it. So the reason why I didn't did it initially, just to showcase you like how this error would pop up and to interpret that and add that. So it's very simple. Just click the install over here, and we should be pretty good. All right, this is added, and now if we try to run the migrations, it should actually create a init migration. Let's just quickly see it. All right, so if you see over here, the flag that I showed you, that is this enable sensitive data logging. So it gives us a warning when we run the migrations as well. Here it is, sensitive data logging is enabled. This may include sensitive application data. This mode should be only be enabled in the development mode, as I mentioned you. All right, so we have the migrations. Let's quickly see those. And again, guys, we are going to see these migrations in detail in the next video. For this video, let's just quickly run it and see the end-to-end connectivity. All right, so now we have the migrations. The next thing that we are going to do is to add those in our database. So we would be updating the database directly, and there is a command for that, .NET EF database. So this is a command. We need to fire .NET EF database update, and it will see the state of database and update it as required. Now, one more parameter that I love personally to add is the verbose. And what it does, it basically gives the detailed logs of what is happening, what is executing. So let's just hit it and see. So if you see over here, what it has done, it has using the assembly, then using the startup project as this, then it goes to see the database, checks out everything, no design term services found, and ultimately it's done. Now let's just quickly open the database and see how these migrations are done over there. So this is our database. I'll just refresh it, and you see we have the user roles table, we have the users table, and we have a migration history. So if we go into the migration history, we will see we have the init migration that we have just created it. And if we go into the user roles, it has successfully seeded both the roles, user and the manager. Now let's try to run the application and see the API. Before we do that, I'll just do one more change that I just generally refer is to use the static name, not to use the default convention based or runtime name. So let's just hit it and see. So if we hit the API, we should ideally see, and yes, so we have both the roles. Again, guys, right now we are just returning all the entities. The idea of this video is just to see, like, are we able to connect with the database or not? This is just the bootstrapping. The optimizations, the tuning, a lot of things are there which we will add incrementally. So yes, we have the user role 1, which is user, and we have the user role 2, which is our manager. So this part is working fine. Just let me know in case you face any problem, you have any queries, suggestions, whatever, just put those in the comment section. And now guys, we are done with the first module, which is like sort of setting up the environment and bootstrapping and understanding the basic concepts. Now this part is done. So the next module that we'll start, we will be moving into the actual use cases, these configurations and everything. So we will be starting with the migrations in the second module, including all the options, updations, scripting and everything over there. And then we would be moving into the configurations and using those thereafter as a repository or query patterns. So a lot of talking around. I'll close the video now. So guys, I hope you like the video. In case you have any queries, suggestions, feedback, raw feedback, whatever it is, just let us know in the comment section. In case you like the video, it helped you out in any way or learn something new, press the thumbs up button to motivate me. I know the frequency is a bit slow. I'll try to increase frequency over here. And just in case not already, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. See you guys. Have a great day. See you next time.